we ran up into one, and it was a good one. There were scales from the bait everywhere. The fish were thrashing, right off the bow, like 15 feet off the bow of the boat. And he gave it a good toss, and then he looked back at me and just said, "Yeah, I'm on." And I watched the rod just bend over, and he stayed on top of the fish and pulled on it as hard as we could with barbless gear for 40 minutes. It was pretty wild.
That's Scott Kennedy telling a bluefin tuna story, one of many from this well-rounded man of the water on this Ocean Life podcast with me, Josh Peterson. Every now and then you meet someone who blows you away with their strength across multiple disciplines in the water. Scott Kennedy is one of those people. As a fisherman, surfer, diver, spearfishman, boater, and more, Scott takes us through his life growing up in Southern California, migrating up north, learning his skills in the ocean the hard way, on his own, and finding great adventure and memories throughout. From hand-shaping surfboards to a love of body surfing, working in aquaculture, and sustainable seafood consulting. Scott gives us a unique and humble perspective on the ocean we all love. If you like what you hear today, take 5 minutes and visit fishwise.org or seafoodwatch.org and read a few things about your favorite tasty fish and educate on best purchasing practices for you and your family. Let's use our wallets to let seafood companies know how important sustainable fish populations are to us all. Thanks for caring about the ocean, and thanks for being here today, sharing in the ocean life of Scott Kennedy. So, dude, Scott, you just got back from San Diego, what, a week, 10 days ago, tuna fishing?
Yeah, 3 weeks ago, yeah. Tuna fishing, epic season.
How was it?
It was great. It's great. We loaded up on really fun, schoolie size, yellowfin tuna, 10 to 25, 30 pounds, and struck out looking for the bluefin. And, as bluefin are, they've showed up again since we've been down there. Yep. So the last week looks like it's been really good for guys. So
yeah.
We had a great trip. It was fun. Fished the Pacific Dawn, one of my favorite boats.
Which is pretty legendary, right?
Yeah, out of Ventura Sport Fishing. They run out of San Diego in the summertime. A little smaller boat, but quick, killer crew.
Yeah.
Holds a lot of bait. And you got on the fish, and it was super fun. We had a good crew of guys down, 7 of us. And
sweet.
First day weather was a little funky, but 2 long drifts that were just wide open.
Really?
What
are you doing? Fly lining?
Fly lining, sardines. Sardines. Bait was pretty small and weak, but small number 4 hooks, 15, 20 pound line, and just, as soon as your bait hit the water, boom, someone would hit it. And
dude,
all, on top water, a lot of skipjack tuna too, to wade through. But, when the yellowfin come through, it was on. Everyone's on, both sides of you,
really,
up and down the boat, guys running up and over, under each other.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Dude. Yeah. Did you keep the skipjack and eat those guys? Or go back?
I don't. I like to toss those back. You can eat them. They're good day 1, day 2.
Yeah.
Day 3, not so much.
Right.
They're a really oily fish, but if you bleed, spike, ice immediately, take really good care of them. They're great. First day seared or poke or sashimi fish, but they don't really keep well in the freezer, probably due to the oil content as good as like a properly cared for yellowfin would. So
right.
So not a target species.
Yeah, they're bycatch. You let those ones go. How about the food, like the burgers on the boat? It's like a big thing, right?
The boat burger is a big thing, definitely for me. I love a good cheeseburger. I did not have a burger on this trip. I can't remember what the lunch was served, but I've definitely have some fond charter boat burger memories. Sporadically throughout my life. But no burger this time. Food was a little hurting. I think whoever was running the galley on the boat this time, she wasn't really usually a galley person, and it was a little rough in there too. So cooking in those conditions, you got to give them props for trying.
Give her a little credit there, give her a break. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, but great trip with some good friends, and pulled some fish out of it. I had a 2-day full limit of yellowfin, so I went to the processor, and it was a good time, even though no bluefin wanted to play. So
yeah, that's sweet, man. But you had a shot at a bluefin earlier this year in the middle of fishing for salmon.
Yeah, we did. They showed up kind of in early May and hung around here through probably early June. Guys were still seeing them.
Yeah.
And we were out there, a good friend of mine, and we were salmon fishing. It was really slow, and buddy called me, and we were on the phone kind of griping about how slow it was, and he gave me his coordinates, and It was a pretty flat, calm, kind of gray day, and I was looking in his direction to see if I could see him amidst all the other boats. And while we were on the phone, we both saw this, splashing, far off in the distance. And so I got off the phone with him, and I put the binoculars up, and we were talking about pulling the salmon gear out of the water and maybe going home. And as I'm looking through the binoculars, I saw, and it was a full, tuna foamer of them, busting on some bait on the surface a while, pretty far off in the distance. But I saw a fish clean break the water, jump out.
Tuna.
Yeah,
because you're like, what is happening out here?
Yeah, and I was thinking, there's no albacore around, and or at least no one had. There's no talk of that at all, and we had to go check this out. So we pulled the gear and kind of ran over in that direction, and sure enough, we got up on them, and it was full on small bluefin. Maybe probably I'd say like 20, 30 up to like maybe 75, 80 pounds from what it looked like, and we started running up on them, and we didn't have any gear for that. We had salmon gear, we had barbless noodle salmon rods.
25 pound
30 40 pound test on them, and all barbless gear. I didn't have a gaff on the boat yet at that point in the season because I don't gaff salmon, and so salmon net and barbless stuff and noodle rods. So it was kind of a rough situation to be in. And once we got over the initial shock that these were the fish that we thought they were, and we decided to kind of like, well, why not? Let's give it a go. And they were really spooky. We were trying to kind of run and gun style on them. So you see the foamer fish pop up, and it's almost like playing whack-a-mole in the water. And you try to run up on them in the boat, and cut the motor as soon as you get in. Try to slide in slow before they sink out. And the first 4 or 5 tries, we were able to get up in them, and they would stay up. And my buddy put a barbless crocodile or a Castmaster spoon, like a big salmon spoon with a big barbless salmon J hook on it, and we started trying to throw that at them, and we'd get a couple shots to toss it at them before they would sink out. And finally, I think it might have been our 5th or 6th try, we ran up into one, and it was a good one. There were scales from the bait everywhere. The fish were thrashing, right off the bow, like 15 feet off the bow of the boat. And he gave it a good toss, and then he looked back at me and just said, I'm on. And I watched the rod just bend over, and he stayed on top of the fish and pulled on it as hard as we could with barbless gear for 40 minutes. It was pretty wild. It was pretty surreal the whole time. Right? The rod was bending through the reel seat, and it was a good sized fish. And I drove the skiff and just tried to stay right on top of it the whole time. I mean, it's really the only shot you have with light line is keep the thing straight up and down. And he did a great job pulling on it. We actually got it to color a couple times right next to the boat, which was pretty surreal. I looked back, and I could see the point. I could see my house. We were where we were kind of in the middle of the Soquel Hole. It was only about 9 miles as the crow flies from like where I live, and I look back, and it was clear enough, and I look down, and there's this beautiful tuna laid out, and we got the color a couple times, and I was starting to think about a game plan for how we were going to deal with it.
You're like, knife it, jump in, grab it. Like, what are you gonna do?
No gaff,
destroy the.
I ended up making a loop with the stern line. And then I think the best plan that we had formulated was to try to get the front half of it in the salmon net, and then maybe get a tail loop on. Because other than that, there's no way. There's no way we were going to land it. The odds were against us. Eventually, the hook pulled, being barbless and all. But the fact that we got to see it and it got to hang on for that long was pretty special. And there were a few guys that landed them. After that day, that day was early May. I think a couple other guys managed to hook them. Some of the commercial salmon guys got a couple. Some people got them trolling plugs. I know Todd from Bayside got a couple fish that I saw personally, and I know of at least one fish that some guy got on a popper too, which was like, I was just dying to have like a surface iron rod or a popper rod with me.
The right gear.
So the rest of the season, salmon season, the long rod came with me on every trip.
Just in case.
Yeah, taking up space in the rod rack on the boat. And never saw him again. I went out and looked a couple times specifically for him, but it's just goes to show you never know what you'll see out there.
Oh, I know. We went the next day because I was at a volleyball tournament, getting random texts like Dave Benet's like, hey, Scott and Joe are hooked up. It's tuna. And my buddy who was there, he's like from a different fishing boat. It's like, dude, they're seeing tuna. I'm like, no way. So where I was like real time with you via Dave, right? Here's what's happening. Meanwhile, trying to set up with my other buddy to go out tomorrow morning, and we went out, chased him around, didn't see him. Tons of wildlife. It was crazy in the bay. I mean, it was insane. Orcas, whales. I mean, every albatross, you were like, whoa. Same thing, we're like about ready to pull it. Let's just throw lines down for salmon. Fine, let's try to get a salmon and go home. 5 minutes on the salmon gear with a spoon hooked up, and the thing just went straight to the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably what it was.
I mean, absolutely straight down.
There were crazy marks, and the craziest thing too is, as we were coming into the harbor that day, like it was sort of like the bat signal had gone off, boats are coming out of the harbor mouth with like full racks of trolling gear. Like I don't know how many people have that stuff up here, but apparently enough that
whoever had it was going.
Guys loading spear guns into boats, and it was classic. It was full on. I love it. It's just the excitement's buzzing. It's like when there's a good swell or something. Everybody's
just frothing on it. Yeah. So that's a pretty epic thing. Now you've also as of right now, as we were talking before you came, I was thinking about this on the way home. You have this really interesting new chapter of life coming your way. One is, you just finished a chapter. You have this new chapter coming with you having a new baby. So congrats soon.
Thank you. Yeah.
But you also just got rid of a baby.
Yeah, I did.
Your boat, Paloma, who you've had for a long time.
Yeah, I had that boat for the last 3+ years now. A little Radencraft 16 center console, very near and dear to me. I just sold her on Saturday, actually. But yeah, a great boat. My second boat ever, but just a really killer little 16-foot skiff, super capable. Yeah. Provided so much food and memories and adventure for my family, for my friends, and really killer. I feel good about the sale. I think a lot of people. I think a lot of people, when they sell a boat, there's this sense of amazing relief, which I don't really have, maybe because testament to the boat itself, or the guy I sold it to was a really cool guy too. So
it's going to a good home.
Yeah, going to a good home, going to a guy who I know will use it for its intended purpose and keep it going. So it's definitely a special boat, and definitely really formative part of my ocean life, I guess you would say.
That's a good call, man. How did you feel when it was driving away and knowing when it hit you, because it was still in your yard, even though you're selling it, still it's there, and and then all of a sudden it was driving away, how did
it kind of hit me. The guy drove from far away, so I knew he was really seriously interested in it, and we did the whole sea trial deal and pull it out and inspect it, and it was back in front of my house where it normally is when it's not in the water, and we did the deal, and he was super stoked, which made me feel better about it. But driving it away, seeing it pull away is he had a cargo van too, so kind of like mine, and which is kind of odd, but it just looked like it was waving goodbye. It was sad, but at the same time, I'm optimistic that he'll have a lot of fun on it too. So
for sure. It's interesting because I was thinking about when I sold my boat. I was partners on a Parker, which is my favorite boat. And when I sold it, we had kind of same kind of thing. More kids. I just needed money, and there wasn't the right time. So that rad chapter of my life, having that came to an end. But when it was going, you think about it, it's there's not many material things you really form an attachment to.
Sure.
Some people do, and that's cool. But for people who are in the water, it's just, you just go. But a boat, man, there's a special kind of bond because it gets you through, feeds you, takes you out to do insane things, keeps you safe at times, gets you through gnarly stuff. I mean, it's just it's rad how the memories you can get from a boat.
I was thinking about it too. It was as I was writing up all the stats on the boat and looking at the engine hours, and man, I had that thing for 3 years, and I spent over 600 hours on it with the motor running. That's just the time on it with the motor running. I'm I spent a lot of time on that thing, and my wife's been super patient letting me do that for sure. But it's been so fun, and I think the biggest thing is the the teaching aspect too, right? Like I learned by doing, and
Totally.
I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot. That between that boat and I had a little 15-foot Hobie power skiff before that.
Yeah.
The old, 2-stroke,
Cool.
2-smoke motor on
Yeah.
it. And between those two, it really kind of set the hook in me for having boats, which is a problem, for in some ways. It's a huge problem.
Because you can blow countless hours on Craigslist. Just looking at boats, even if you're not even in the market, don't even start looking because it's like suddenly you're like in Seattle, Tacoma, Craigslist center console search land.
Yeah,
like, whoa, what's this?
Gears start turning, and you're like, oh, I could rebuild that and do this and repower that, and what's an extra 30, 40 grand? By the end of it, and
it's nothing.
You could then you try to talk your buddy into it, and it's all bad.
It does south fast, but you made incredible use of that thing, and I really want to call it out because. While folks listening, it's like, it's a 16-foot center console. That's cool. But like the stuff you used to do on it was insane. I mean, and I wasn't around a lot to see that. But this June, when we went down to Santa Cruz Island, we had a crew. It was 6 of us on this 35-foot catamaran sailboat. And then you and Joe pulled up on your boat. And this boat now, I mean, for folks listening, like Scott's a big dude. Joe's a big dude. Like, like big burly men. You rolled up on that thing. I remember one morning we're sitting there. Rods everywhere. You must have had 10 rods, I'm guessing.
Something like that.
Something close.
It's something like that.
You have a couple surfboards. You have a fish bag. You have food on there somewhere. You have some way to stay warm and sleep. You have dive gear, spear guns. And this is like 2 dudes and all this stuff on a 16-foot skiff. But you guys had it totally dialed. It was pretty awesome, man. Talk about that setup.
Yeah, I mean, I think... Joe's a really good friend of mine, and I think both of us probably spend way too much time thinking about those kind of things. So I mean, I guess you could kind of say we're in our element planning a trip like that for sure. We were loaded down. I mean, we were out there 3 days.
Yeah,
and,
dude.
We'd done it before, so. There was some improvement over the last time, I'd say. It's not comfortable on a boat like that, no matter what way you look
glamorous.
at it. I mean, you start talking about, cuddy cabin or a small pilot houseboat like that. Sure, it's totally doable, but it's a little more rugged. We're talking tarps over the console and sleeping in the front, and it's not great, but just the chance to be out there is awesome.
Yeah.
But we were loaded down, and we leaving the harbor. We had to do kind of like a little dance to get the boat up on plane. I think we had over 60 gallons of fuel with us, and between all the extra fuel canisters, like a Mexican drug ponga or something, to get us out there, and then dumping more fuel in as we go to sort of redistribute the weight on the boat. But it all worked out great, and it's just testament to that whole design that that's what it's designed to do. It's designed to go out to those islands with a ton of weight on there and then come back and have you do it safely. And the 16 just happened to be the smallest of those designs that they ever made, but it's totally doable. Space is at a premium, but if you plan how you store stuff, it all works out.
Yeah,
so
dude, that was rad though. I admire you guys for doing that because I've spent just time on a Parker out there, and you start to feel like, I don't have enough room, and there's a wheelhouse, and it's warm and cozy.
It's like the Four Seasons.
Yeah, it is, dude. I saw you guys. I'm like, dude, what was I ever complaining about?
The food, like we went pretty rugged on the food this time. It was like. We ate some stuff that was foraged or fished, obviously, but we're also like boiling hot dogs in the jet boil and like eating like crackers and chips and stuff. Like Nature Valley granola bars is kind of my boating go-to. Get the Costco box and you're good to go.
Lightweight.
So
who cares if they crumble? You just pour them in your mouth.
Yeah, some bubble waters and jugs of water in the front, and that's it. Coffee. Gotta have the coffee.
But it was rad. You guys we were able to hang out, and you guys scouted around, and then we dove together, and then fished, and then had dinners and stuff. That was a pretty sick trip.
Yeah, that was super fun. Anytime we get out there, it's special, and anytime you get a good weather window. So the crossing's mellow. It's super super good part of California.
Yeah,
it's kind of the fringe, the western. The western edge there.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah. So we're talking about already just spending so much time on boats and doing stuff and fishing and everything. And as mentioned, when you go somewhere, you're loaded up with more than that. Spear guns, fish, surfboards, etc. So the way I look at that is just a super well-rounded set of activities in the water, which resonates with me because I have the same kind of affliction, which is I just want to do it all in the water, which is rad because you get to do it all. but it's tough at times because it costs a lot, and sometimes you don't know what you should do. Is it surf? Is there fish? I'm not sure. You just kind of get paralyzed. But to get to that point, like, just maybe rewind, like you grew up in Southern California in a pretty like kind of water focused area of La Jolla. So take us through just those days and how you started just adopting all these different things you're doing now.
Sure. Yeah. The analysis paralysis is definitely real. I can resonate with that. And my wife would be emphatically nodding her head if she was here, and if she hears this later, yeah, she'll definitely probably get a kick out of that. But yeah, formatively, I was born and raised in La Jolla, California. Suburb of San Diego, for those who don't know, kind of central coastal San Diego. I was not from an ocean family. So a lot of my, early ocean experiences were, my parents were supportive, but I didn't have like a dad. I didn't have a dad who surfed. My dad wasn't in Wind and Sea Surf Club. I didn't have, someone to like really kind of show me the ropes like that. So a lot of it was like, get a boogie board and then, get a surfboard for Christmas when you're 7 and do like a YMCA surf camp kind of thing. And kind of go from there. And the same thing with fishing too. I think some of my early fish experiences, my grandpa actually fished, often, but not, I wouldn't call him like hardcore, but he'd take me out on the party boats when I was like 5-6 years old.
Oh, sweet. That's magical when you're a kid.
Out of Seaforth and out of like Point Loma sport fishing and stuff, and just like overnight trips, but not like your little half day like rock cod trip. It was like a overnights and stuff. I remember getting super seasick and like puking in the bunk room and and then coming back. I remember one time like still being all wobbly, getting off the boat and like throwing up in his car on the way home and stuff. But that definitely like it was really formative for me. And as in later years, as I started to kind of foray into like surf fishing, and then also into like diving at a young, I started free diving around 14 or so. It really, growing up there was really special and formative. And
did you have a crew like other guys your age?
No, I was kind of like lone wolf guy. I had a really good friend in high school growing up, and we kind of got into diving together. And that was it was like late 90s, early 2000s. So it's like really pre like internet forum, like Instagram spear fisherman guy. You got all the gear kitted out already. It was like, I'm like shooting like zebra perch with an orange pole spear and taking him home and eating him, right? Learning the ropes, and meeting a couple guys. The former owner, James Joseph, Dive and Kite in San Diego, kind of showed us some stuff. And we're like, whoa, like blue water spearfishing, and this is how you rig your gun as like a breakaway, like all that kind of stuff that we take for granted now. You can just kind of type it into YouTube or whatever. And get it, it was all a little like harder fought, and a lot of diving through experience. So I feel really fortunate to have grown up there before the marine protected area thing happened down there, where we lost a lot of our good diving grounds in La Jolla. Like over I'd say a solid 60% of the coastline that used to be diveable was really productive, was shut down to all recreational and commercial fishing. So that was a big deal. And growing up though, I could just go out and grab a limit of lobster when they're in season, and you had the option, shore dive, there's yellowtail, there's big calico bass, sea bass if you want to put the time in for that thing there. And those opportunities are still there, but it's not the same. And at the same time, surfing too. La Jolla is kind of this promontory, and a lot of swell exposure from different angles, and a lot of really legendary surf breaks there too. So again, I kind of lone wolf that too. I didn't have like solid mentorship when I was younger, but it was a lot of learning how to body surf and learning how to bodyboard. And then I was like, what, I got to get I surfed when I was a little kid, and then kind of went the body surf and bodyboard route till I was about like 14, 15. And then it was like surfing full on, and just kind of going at it myself. My school didn't have a surf team. Like I said, I wasn't part of the surf club, but sort of absorbing by osmosis all the from the characters and people surfing La Jolla Reefs and Blacks and Scripps, and so so many spots around there. And starting once I got a car, kind of going further South County, San Diego, North County, into Mexico a little bit. So
so you just got, you're kind of naturally inclined to just love being in the water.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
like,
it's, you know,
just-
every day pretty much, right?
Yeah.
It was either the skateboard or the water for a
Yeah,
while, you know,
totally.
and then the water eventually started to
Taking
win.
over.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, I love the old stories of La Jolla as like kind of the mecca of spearfishing and freediving, like in the 40s.
40s, 50s, yeah.
Carlos Isles, you read his book?
Not that book, but you know, the La Jolla Bottom Scratchers
Yeah,
Club, the dive
dude,
clubs back
it's
then,
so
guys shooting
rad.
big black sea bass.
Right
and-
there, just
yeah.
right there. Like
Yeah.
they didn't even know. It was like, you know, 30 feet was like this crazy depth, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden they saw the grouper, like all kinds of stuff. you
Yeah.
know? Not grouper, but like black sea bass.
Yeah,
and
big
stuff,
black
and, like,
sea bass
tripping.
and-
I mean, so I just love those old stories, and that was right there.
Yeah, a lot of it's the geography right there of La Jolla Cove and the La Jolla Underwater Canyon, and you know the kelp is really beaten back right now. It's pretty
Yeah.
barren, where there used to be this really lush kelp forest that went out to about 80 feet, and then it would just drop off into the canyon. So you get all these pelagic fish cruising through there, and a lot of bait, and just a really rich marine environment.
Yeah. No, man, I it's just so rad down there. And I mean, being here in Santa Cruz, I get a little jealous at times when you hear of guys, you know, shooting the yellowtail like on the kelp beds or sneaking out for a sea bass right there. And I mean, we have sea bass here too, but it's hard to shoot them because, you know, some of our friends can. I can't seem to ever even see one, but
Yeah,
people can.
it's different. It's different strokes up here for sure. I definitely, sometimes, you get like the FOMO going on late season, summer, especially, fishing super hot down there, tuna, whatever, surface iron, yellowtail, all the things that, patty hopping and diving, blue water diving, all the stuff that, gets our blood flowing. But up here is awesome too in different ways. And it really forced me to focus on hook and line fishing.
Yeah.
And,
really
and
does.
kind of honing those skills and learning all those different disciplines to the best of my ability.
Yeah, I know. No, that's true. That's very true, man. So then during all that, like you did some like junior lifeguards and all this stuff.
Yeah,
So just another reason to just be in the water. You did that for a number of years.
Yeah, when I was a kid, like I said, my parents, my dad couldn't even swim actually, which is pretty interesting. I mean, he grew up super poor New York City.
Yeah.
Swimming wasn't really high on the priority list.
Like, why would you even need to swim?
For like 1940s poor people in New York. But junior guards program was pretty formative. I did Mission Beach junior guards, and it was a lot of soft sand beach running and relays, beach flags, and stuff like that. And I did that probably till I was about 13 or so.
Yeah.
I remember being stoked because that was the age they'd let you jump off the Ocean Beach pier. So that was like all year at the end they'll let us jump off the pier, and it was pretty awesome. So definitely something that I want to get my kids into here, especially we have a smaller town, smaller community, and there's a really strong like peer group I see from all you guys with older kids that have come out of that, and it's something that I really want to and friends of mine that have taught for the program like Tyler, and it's I definitely want my kids involved. So
man,
looking forward to it.
Yeah, awesome.
And it's like free daycare, right?
Dude, it's like the best thing there
They're
is.
not free.
Yeah, but it's it is.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And they're tired when they get home. It's
they're tired and hungry and sandy, and like they want to go back the next day. I mean, you hope, but no, that's cool. So you mentioned body surfing as well, which is still something like what you mentioned here, and you gave me a nice little rundown of your past of kind of you had this period of time when you just kind of it's all you did, had the body surfing blinders on for a bit.
Going back to La Jolla a bit, we actually there are a couple ways actually that are body surfing only. So they're flagged 24/7, 365, no flotation devices, no hand planes, no boogie boards, nothing.
It's rad.
Not even really shore breaky waves, but like proper reef breaks that will hold size in the winter too. And later, kind of in my high school life, surfing started to take over more. It was a nice counterpart to that, whereas these waves like weren't really crowded. There's smaller crew, older guys, usually lifeguards from the area, and I just started to I took to it. It was fun. Right. You're out there, and it could be a pumping day, and there's like 4 dudes out.
Right.
And
it's
still it's mellow, but there's still you still got to play by the rules, the lineup and stuff. But just learning that, because I'd always womped and stuff as a kid, the shore break, and actually like learning about movement and getting barreled and like being able to do spinners and catch like long waves and underwater takeoffs and all that stuff just sort of started to happen. And it's really, stuck with me. Like if I'm down there now and I want to grab a surf, or I'm visiting, I still have a few family members down there for the holidays. Like, okay, it's like Thanksgiving morning. Do I want to go surf blacks with 100 dudes, or do I want to go out and like catch 20 waves in an hour,
having fun,
have like a couple of pleasant chats with some cool, like pretty legendary old dudes, get barreled a few times maybe, and then go home and eat and then be done with it. It's like I'd choose that anytime,
100%.
So yeah, I've done that a lot. And then, coming up here to Santa Cruz, we also have like such a diverse array of waves and setups, and that are awesome for surfing, but also, body surfing too. You got so many little sneaky wedges and shore break spots around town that are super fun, and you got some of those guys that are body surfing Middle Peak and stuff like that too. So not that I've done that or really want to, but done a couple of the Body Surfing Association contests up at Lagunas, which are always a good time, and it's just a fun vibe. It's like totally, there's just like a bunch of nerds swimming around, having a good time.
So true.
Yeah,
I love it. My son and I went and did the one recently there.
Were there waves? It was kind of, it looked
like I was the second heat at like 8 and 8:15, and it was still glassy, and a couple wedges. Like, I mean, you probably wouldn't even have gone out if you're just going to go have fun. Right. But it was like actually kind of fun. And then all of a sudden a little chunder from the wind, and then it just went to like 2 foot wind slop. It was a bummer, but it is. It's like prone paddling kind of crowd.
Right.
Nobody cares who's best or not. It's just all fun. Like, it's just fringe sport.
Yeah.
It's a great vibe. It's so mellow. And even when I'm out body surfing at It's or Lagunas or like 26, it's always like, hey, what's up? How's it going?
Yeah, no one's ever super bummed on you. I mean, if the waves are good, and there's a bunch of people, obviously, the scarcity,
that's right, the resource scarcity.
Resource scarcity, those same like interpersonal dynamics occur. But it's such a good time, and it's just like one of many ways to enjoy a wave in the ocean, and just adult play basically.
I know. I rediscovered the hand plane this year. I had a guy on the podcast who does Hush handboards, and they're like carbon fiber, and I the last one I had was like some modified Burger King tray with a hand cut around it, and which sucks until I got this thing, and it's so rad. It just extends your ride, like super heavily. I'm not no pro, but like more flatter waves. Like, you're up and you could ride these things. I mean, it's just a whole different kind of fun world. Just fun geeking around when there's
I like the purity of the Taco Bell tray. I'll say that. I don't often use like a planing device when I'm body surfing, but like if I'm gonna pick one, say that.
The old school.
Yeah, the old school. The
some
tray,
spray paint on it.
The tray's the way. Yeah, exactly.
The tray's the way. Now, I was thinking today. I think the first time we ever met was on the beach at Cal's.
Yeah.
And we went sub-squatching.
We did go sub-squatching. That was fun. Yeah, I remember I came down. I think you guys had it was some Ghost Riders fundraiser thing. But I met you.
24-hour paddle.
Yeah, and you had that sub-squatch down there. And I'm like pretty anti-sup in general. I got to put that out there. I mean, unless it's like for transit or flat water or diving or something. But like the sups and the surf, not really my thing. But that thing looked super fun, I gotta say. And so my curiosity was instantly piqued, and you kind of had this like devilish grin, like, let's go take 4 of us out there and go get a wave and indicator on this thing. I was like, hell yeah, I want to do that. So
dude,
that was really fun. I remember we, you and Nick and Dave and I all got on it, and we got some super long waves. I think we ran over a couple of people, Cowles, sorry. Sorry, Richard Schmidt Surf School or whoever that was we ran over, but that was super fun.
There's so, like, really, if you think about it, few things that 4 grown men can do together in the ocean.
Oh, yeah.
And giggle like little kids. I mean, it's people looking like, they kind of diss it a little bit, like some of even friends of mine are like too, like kind of like shaking their heads. Why do you have that? But everybody who gets on it and rides it, I don't care if it's a 2-foot wave.
Yeah.
It's got the biggest smile, like you're a total little grom, man. It's the raddest, funnest thing. And 4 big dudes,
900 pounds of us, coming down the line on this like
control.
Stupid inflatable raft.
Dude,
it's pretty awesome.
It's so fun. It's so fun. Yeah, that was rad, man. So then, like, kind of transitioning into surfing a little bit off of that one.
Okay,
so you grew up doing everything and then surfing, and you've also mentioned, you've done some surf trips, you've been in the Maldives recently, you've done some tweaking on some board experiments, making your own boards and stuff. Sure. I mean, talk about where all that's at.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to unpack there. Surf wise, it's always been a really important part of my life. And then, when I moved here in 2003, and been here ever since. And, such a rich culture in, and, not only surfing, but surf design and shaping here in town. And I started messing around with some, board shaping, and back in college, this was probably 2006, 2007, maybe. I shaped my first board with a friend of mine who had been doing it, and he was kind of a pretty stony dude. Tony Zhu, he still shapes, still surfs, a real good surfer. Does makes his own fins, everything, start to finish. And he had this little shed over here on the west side it was on Rankin, over by Safeway, and the first board I shaped was this super trippy, down rails 70s, single fin pintail thing.
Yeah.
It sucked. Right. It didn't even look that cool. But it was surfable, and I made this fin for it, and I glassed and sanded the whole thing by hand, and no power tools were using the whole thing at all, which, gives you, it's not only gratifying from a shape and ride perspective, which is something that really resonates with me, but it makes you appreciate what a production shaper can do, their skill set, and that those guys should be paid way more than they are, and that we shouldn't have import boards from China and all that. That's a whole other thing I won't get into here yet, but so I started shaping some boards and glassing some boards, and a lot of that was driven out of wanting something else. I had my standard thruster, whatever, and a step up, and always had fishes, from growing up in San Diego. That influence was always there, but wanted to make some weird stuff and ride it, or being a bigger dude too, you can't really go into the shop and get a board off the rack that works for you. So I was I kind of want to make some stuff, and right around that time was when the mini Simmons resurgence was happening, and the fish was becoming more mainstream, outside of regional little pockets. So that sort of drove a lot of experimentation, and so I started making some boards, and then I started, was introduced to some people, Mark Brown from Paradise Glassing down in Watsonville, and I started using the extra room down there. And it was getting guidance from one of my friends was a production shaper at Pearson Arrow for a long time, and it kind of started showing me some things, and I would try some things and make some pretty ugly boards. But and I made a few boards early on that really worked, and that I surfed for a long time, and so it sort of really got the gears turning.
Yeah, that's cool.
Now flash forward, I've been doing it for 13 plus years now, cool. And I haven't made that many boards, maybe 60, somewhere around there. Lost count, but mostly for myself. Some friends I've tricked into getting a few here and there.
This will work really good for you.
People ask me from time to time. I definitely have some friends I've made a few boards for, and some of them sucked, so sorry guys, but some of them they were stoked on, and that was also super gratifying to see a friend who I surf with all the time, and I know how they surf, and I'm hey, I think you'd really like this, because I really like this, and it's kind of weird, and you should try it, and they're stoked on it. It's I got a good friend of mine, Eric Oberg, he grew up in San Diego too, and a different little underground pocket of board design, and really knowledgeable and appreciative of that, and he's had a number of my boards, and he shreds on them, and I love seeing that. So I'm still most of the time, when it's time to get a new board or want a new board, I just call up Juicebox, a good friend of mine, and be hey, can I piggyback on your blank order? And then a blank comes in, and I'll get it, and I'll think about it for a while, and I'll go down to Watsonville, after hours, and mow something out, sometimes by myself, sometimes with a friend, and then the boys down there will glass it. So it's all American surfer labor.
100% local.
100% local.
Made in USA.
Everything. I don't know about these fin boxes futures. I don't know if they mold those, and they might actually. They might. So
dude, we'll pretend they do for this conversation.
For sure. But my surfing, I'm definitely a jack of all trades, master of none guy with everything in the ocean, and surfing's no different. So I'm pretty open to all crafts. I got everything from little fishes and hulls and small wave gear, and standard shortboards and some step ups. I've got a gun that I don't surf Mavericks with.
Right. You could.
No, I don't know about that. Not too much interest there, but
Big Middle Peak's good enough for me.
In town when it's kind of doing it, it's fun to mess around, and then longboarding. I didn't longboard as a kid. When I was a kid in the late '90s, longboarding was still super lame. So I didn't own a longboard till I came up here actually, and then so I've had fun kind of trying to figure that out a bit. So everything, surf mats, the
whole deal,
good pair of swim fins. You got to have it all, and it's I appreciate people that do that. surf wise around here.
Yeah.
There's guys that rip on shortboards in town. We all know who they are. There's guys that rip on longboards, but then you got guys that can do it all, and they do it all really well, and kind of on their own program, and that's really cool to see.
Yeah. No, it's cool. It's interesting to see, like, and to each his own. It's all good, as you mentioned, but it is interesting to see people who they want to get this. Basically, they have their board, the dimensions, and they get that again and again because they know it really well. That's great. They know exactly what they're going to get out of that thing. Cool. There's guys who, whether it's large or small, and then other guys who just like are always experimenting, always something new, whether it's a piece of crap in somebody's yard with like dirt on it, they scrape off and they can't wait to ride that thing just to see if they can or what it's like, and everything in between. And
I've been there.
And I love that too. I love like whatever it is. And I used to be kind of self-conscious about that because I'm like, God, I should just shortboard more because when it's pumping, I really want to go do that, but I kind of suck because don't do it because I'm doing all this other weird fish or a longboard or just soft top for 8 months with my kids, But then I realized now it's like, I just love trying, I'm over that now and just like pull something out. Like, I don't even think this like quad kill fin thing is going to work right here, but I'm going to find out.
Yeah.
Like just randomly cool things.
Yeah, a lot of that's like being stuck. Some people are stuck in that paradigm of like, I have to rip and I have to like give my best performance every time. And some of the most fun I've ever had surfing is on like a, chest high, like lined up wave, just going straight and not even thinking about turning and just going as fast as you possibly can. Like that's awesome. And I've spent, countless hours and dollars and, time in the shaping room trying to make a board that goes straight at one particular wave really fast, and that's awesome. Like I'm into that because, like, full disclosure, no one's ever gonna like pay me money to surf or even want to watch me surf, right? So it's like
do what the hell ever you
exactly.
want.
I'm like, well, I don't care what it looks like. Like if it feels cool to me, I'm all about that. So
But you've done some surf travel too, like recently. What'd you do this year?
This year, my wife and I went to the Maldives, which was cool. We've been talking about that as an option for a while, and she doesn't really surf, but her boxes she needs to tick for travel are usually related to, is it warm? Can we snorkel and see some cool stuff and maybe go diving? And she couldn't this year because she's pregnant, right? But she's super adventurous, like in that regard. The surf is kind of an afterthought, but I usually get my way when it comes to like.
But we can have all that and waves.
And trying to balance that with the family is really important to me, and we're getting there. So I went to the Maldives this year. It was cool. As per usual, I'm always trying to go. Granted, I don't have the luxury of like planning trips like strike mission style, seeing the swell and going. Be nice. I bet we all wish we could do that. Only some people get to do that.
Book it 8 months in advance and hope for swings.
You're looking like regionally, like what your odds are, and so that time of year it looked good, and I saw some. There was swell. It wasn't going to be flat, but
it wasn't like bonkers.
Yeah, it wasn't like a crazy pumping swell. And then as we got closer to it, I was like, packing boards for the trip. And then I was like, oh man, the weather, like I was just looking at like this storm system this low in the Indian Ocean and the way it was tracking. And basically it looked like the weather was going to be kind of funky. So not like stormy wise, but just winds, like bad winds.
Right.
And in those northern atolls there's really only one wind direction that they really like. And so it's either that or the bad one.
Yeah.
And it was the bad one for like the first 5 days of the trip. So it's a bummer, it's like sweltering hot. It's like the water there is so warm that it's not even really a relief to get in it. But it's beautiful, it's beautiful country. It's heavily like tourism driven, and a lot of people now are familiar with the whole like the sea level rise plight that the nation faces. We don't know how much longer they'll be around, and a lot of the people in the country there's already plans to relocate to Sri Lanka.
Dude, I've heard that. That's insane.
Yeah. Anyway, we got pretty barred by the wind, so it was hard on shore, and because these are really like low-lying atolls, there is no wind relief, right? Like
you're not hiding
if
anywhere.
the swell could wrap around to the other side of an atoll, and there's like a couple spots where maybe you could take a seaplane to or something like far away where that was an option. But in the northern atolls, you're totally barred if that's happening. And we got totally barred. So there was swell. And it was kind of painful because there was head high overhead swell every day, and it was just hacked, like totally hacked. And so I was just looking at it like, oh man, that would be so fun if it wasn't blowing like 18 knots on shore right now at 8 o'clock in the morning. And it was. And finally, the second to last day, it didn't really rain, but you could kind of see it just sort of slacked a little bit and got kind of side shore, and it cleaned up, and I went for a long surf, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe like tomorrow. And then sure enough, the next day it just went like completely glass.
Oh wow.
Like the it wasn't even like offshore, it was just like it just kind of glassed, and I think I surfed like 7 hours that day. Sea lice stings, and like I don't do well in the tropics. Like I'm everything wants to like burn me, sting me, cut me, like rash me. Like I'm just like I'm like a giant rash when I go to the tropics, So I love surfing in a wetsuit. But totally. You kind of fight through the pain, and it's awesome. And the Maldives are great waves. It's pretty tame as far as like a tropical surf destination goes, even in season. It's like there's some barreling waves, but it's not like Fiji or you're not going to get like just super cut up, it's not, you don't have to be super calculated. It's just kind of fun. It's like going for a surf at your local, but it's really good.
Rad, man.
And it's crowded though. So
really. Would you go back?
I don't know if it'd be the top of my list. Like I definitely would like to. It's expensive to get there.
Right.
It's 24 hours of plane travel. I mean, that's like the most grueling part. For sure, if the opportunity fell in my lap, sure. But there's other spots. I like cold. I want to go cold places. Like I want to go cold, and my wife doesn't really want to do that. But cold speaks to me. So bring on like the 6 mil and the lobster claw gloves and stuff like that.
Nobody out.
If I had the choice, that's what I'd be doing.
Yeah, Iceland. I've heard good things about Iceland. So, kind of. On top of all of this, like being in the water, your profession day to day is you're working like in the sustainable seafood world, if that's the right way to say it, with the group called Fishwise. And so talk about that, like what you do day to day and what the sort of the mission of Fishwise is.
So Fishwise is a nonprofit that is focused on seafood sustainability. And the primary way they achieve that is as a consultancy. So, been around since about 2004. They're started by 2 graduate students at UCSC.
Oh, cool.
And we've really evolved from where that started. But at the outset, what they sought to do is they went into a couple of the local New Leaf stores, and they noticed that, there wasn't a whole lot of information available about what the seafood was in the case. Right? You just had like, lingcod and then a price. And so they sought to use the Monterey Bay Aquarium Seafood Watch rating system, which is pretty new at that stage, and then apply those labels in the case, like the color rating, and then a little bit more information. So not just lingcod, but like lingcod that was caught via hook and line in California, right? And then, it had its corresponding, color rating, right? The sustainability rating. So it empowered the consumer to make a more informed choice about what they were buying. And then so from there, the organization grew, and where we work now really is predominantly with larger retail grocery. So Albertsons Company has been a project that I've worked on for a long time. So that's all Albertsons, Safeways, Vaughn's, like all those stores, thousands of stores. And it's really, the easiest way to describe what I do is corporate sustainable responsibility, CSR type stuff as it pertains to seafood.
Got it.
So now there's all, media exposés, not just around sustainability of the fish and stocks and bycatch and the way that seafood is harvested or produced globally, but there's all these other issues about seafood fraud and mislabeling. So the traceability of seafood, so knowing exactly what you're eating and where it comes from, and then also social responsibilities around that. So like labor issues, slavery in seafood, which is huge. In the last couple of years, there's been a lot more media focus on that. So really what we do is help companies navigate that whole world, because it's almost 2020. Like you have to be, as a large corporate entity dealing in seafood, like you should proactively be doing something to mitigate those issues or improve things, right? And it also communicate that to your consumer, and we sort of fit in the middle of all that in helping companies navigate that. So things like creating a sustainable seafood sourcing policy and how you communicate such a complex, nuanced thing to the consumer, how you communicate to your consumer that you care about labor issues, right?
Right, that's tough.
And
tough to do.
We also do a lot of convening, globally with different stakeholders in the seafood industry and NGOs working on human rights issues, and sort of really trying to bring everyone to the table that needs to be there to talk about those issues to create some change. Right?
Yeah.
So I've been doing that for a long time, and my personal interests lie more on the local source seafood thing, and getting people excited about seafood. I'm excited about seafood. I like at a base level, I like to go harvest something out of the ocean and then cook it and eat it and do that with other people, and we enjoy it.
Yeah.
And we're so privileged to live, as coastal Californians. It's almost like we're in this bubble where, Josh, you could go shoot a rad fish and we could eat it for dinner, and I could bring something out of my freezer, and when we have this cool connection over this thing that we harvested, and we have this immense respect for it, and we make it in a cool way and we eat it and everyone's happy. And then you go inland, you go Midwest, and it's like a Van de Kamp's fish stick in a freezer, fully. Right? Maybe that's oversimplifying it a little bit, but bringing a little bit of that knowledge,
some awareness,
and from my experiences in the corporate realm, doing that, in corporate boardrooms and stuff, and communicating that importance, people get that it's an issue, but it's not necessarily as near and dear to them as it is to us, maybe.
And I bet part of the challenge you guys have is tying it back to the economics of it all. That's what gets people's attention. Unless if you're like us, where it's just important because you live here, you're part of it. But if you're 50 miles inland, let alone 500 miles inland, it's a different world. You got to tie it, to put a dollar sign on it.
Return on investment. I mean, that's always something that in my professional life, when I've been having to, for example, talking to a company that's interested in maybe hey, we need to do something about this whole sustainable seafood thing, right? Where before seafood was just another commodity, it's typically something when you're talking a retail grocery setting, it's revenue wise, it's 2% of the whole store,
It's not,
I mean, it's not insignificant. It's expensive and labor intensive and, high shrink and all that stuff from an econ perspective. But the return on investment and really having to dig into what you're sourcing, where it comes from, and how to and how to educate the people that you have working behind the counter.
Right. That's tough. It's a lot of effort.
Super tough. And so, having to make that case, right. And to people that, this is worthwhile. It's not going to necessarily be cheaper, but you have to treat seafood like this special entity, which it is. It's not just another widget that you buy, you buy low and sell high. It's just, there's more to it than that.
It's not a field of cows that you can just keep making baby cow. I mean,
there's issues there too, but it's so complex, and that's why, organizations like Fishwise and Sustainable Fisheries Partnership, Monterey Bay Aquarium Seafood Watch program I've worked with closely for a long time, and everyone's trying to help companies do the right thing, and there's a lot of impetus for companies to do the right thing, and a lot of pressure, market pressure, and frankly a lot of it's competitive, right? It's what's the other business that's in my sector, what are they trying to do, right? So it's been a fun journey there. I used to work prior to that. I was working in aquaculture, farming abalones up the coast here, and so going from the production side of things to the consulting side of things was an interesting dichotomy, and sometimes I wish I was outside again every day, to be honest. I don't know if I'm necessarily the best guy cut out for office work. But
I know.
But it's been great. Check them out.
That's
fishwise.org.
Sweet.
A lot of stuff happening, domestic, but also on a global scale.
What's your sense of the trend of the corporations you work with in terms of their willingness to invest in not only just sustainable seafood, but like you said, the education of their employees, of the public, of their customers? Is it
totally varies. The education piece is hard, right? Especially you have a lot of high turnover, the seafood meat departments, and people get bounced around and stuff. So that's one thing. I will say that over the years, at first, when I started working there back in 2012, it was all still pretty fresh. The whole concept of corporate, sustainable seafood. And now it's almost like a norm. Like it's talked about more. There's still a lot of apprehension to invest in it. The biggest issue with the whole, like, if you want to call it like a movement, like the biggest roadblock is data is one of the biggest issues. A lot of seafood companies are still stuck in like paper invoices. Stuff's just in a box and it's not, there's a lot number and all like the food safety stuff is there in line. But like when it comes down to brass tacks, like if you want to trace that back to the vessel or you want to actually know exactly what species that is, I mean, depending on what type of seafood you're talking about, it's not. Right, it's not there. It's just not there. Yeah. And you even ask a company like, hey, you sold like 5 million pounds of all 60 different species of seafood last year. Yeah. Like, where did this all come from? What was it? Where did it come from? And like people, beyond a couple data elements, like a couple things, like it's just not there.
It was cod. You're like, well,
or
everything's just cod. You're like, well, what does that mean?
Yeah, or country of origin labeling is like a big one too, where that label, when you see product of whatever. Product in every country in a case, that doesn't mean that it was caught there. That means it was either was landed there or it was processed there. So and you got stuff like people catching fish in Alaska in industrial fisheries, which are great, fisheries management. But then you look at like the other pieces like carbon footprint, and the stuff gets shipped back to China to be processed, and then back to the U.S. again to be distributed, and repackaged maybe 3-4 times before it hits the end consumer, and like that's a bummer. Dude. It's a bummer to put it lightly. It's like that's it's tough. It's tough, and it's an uphill battle, but at least it's something that people are more aware of now.
Yeah.
And ultimately, what it comes down to as a consumer is people asking informed questions, voting with your wallet.
Yep.
Here locally in town. We're fortunate to have you either know people who catch fish locally like us, and usually want to share, or you've got like Hans and H&H, great service there, or Charlie at Ocean to Table, or Alan at Real Good Fish. Like there are so many alternatives here where you can buy seafood and feel good about it and know where it came from, and you're supporting local economy and local fishermen. We have so many epic local small boat commercial fishermen here, guys that are so knowledgeable, and it's really cool to have that sort of micro economy.
Yeah, I think most people will, if they could choose where they put their money to buy fish, they would choose to support the local caught, local sustainable thing. It's just hard where it's such a mode of convenience. So if you go to Safeway because you just pop it in, or New Leaf, like you're like, well, I could go to Hans or like even on the wharf or somewhere, but that's out of my way, so I'm just going to buy the convenience stuff. That's why I think like I like the Real Good Fish model, which we subscribe to.
Yeah.
Which is it's sourced locally. It tells you who caught it, when, and where. And it's just cool because I just feel so much better about giving $30 for a pound and a half of something.
Right.
Because I know it was this guy up in Fort Bragg who caught it 2 days ago, and here it is. Versus like, I don't know where that $30. I bought it at New Leaf, and I'm sure their stuff's good, but it's just nice to know it's local.
Yeah, New Leaf too. I've done a lot of work with them, and they really do put a lot of effort into adhering to their sourcing policy too. And local fit, like I know Ocean Table's got a lot of local product going into those stores now, so it's cool. You can go to like a New Leaf and you can get product that was caught by a guy on his skiff like I had, and that has a commercial license, and maybe he fishes halibut, a few months out of the year, put a little extra, money in, and maybe he just really likes to fish, and he's just a guy with a commercial license. And, then there's guys like that too around here, and that's really cool to be able to support that too. And that whole CSF model too, right? Like we live in such a rich agricultural area with like CSA boxes and small farms bring that, and doing it with the seafood is just, it's awesome.
Sense.
And we have such a epic variety of seafood here locally too. Like that's the other thing we're so lucky to have, like every kind, so it's awesome.
Yeah, you're right. You're totally right. So within the next couple of weeks, you got a new boy coming. This will be numero dos.
Yep.
You got a 2-year-old now. You got another one on the way. And dude, family's growing, man. How you feeling about that?
Good. Cautiously optimistic.
One day at a time.
Yeah, it sort of just happens, right? We got one, and then all of a sudden there's another one coming. And my son Tyler's, he's awesome. Like, I never really, growing up was like, oh, I'm gonna, have kids at this age and do that, whole thing, and it just sort of never really was on my radar.
Yeah.
And my wife's really family oriented and awesome mom. Yeah, my son, he's super gregarious, like curious. Loves fish, loves the beach. Like, I literally have to stop him. He'll like run into the water and like won't stop, like he'd drown, but I've got him out on the, put him on the front of the longboard and we catch little waves and like prone around, and
dude,
he's just fired up the whole time.
Frothing already.
I love mountain bikes, and he's like already, he's got his little Strider bike at the pump track, put him on the front of my mountain bike and we cruise around. And
dude,
he's
that's rad.
He's awesome. Yeah, skateboards, like everything, like all the good stuff.
Cool.
And he's such a sweet kid. I mean, he just hit 2, so it's not great all the time, but so really looking forward. Hopefully the next one is pretty similar, but it's going to be full on for a while. And my priorities definitely have shifted. Like, say that with a lump in my throat. And it's been a good like maturation for me personally. I think like just like learning to reprioritize like the family, and then like, but also being able to share that with my kids, right? Like, I said earlier, like my parents were really supportive of my interests growing up, but I was an only child. I didn't really have a lot of ocean mentors when I was younger, but it was like, oh, you need a like I got a surfboard for Christmas or whatever,
you had
or like
what you needed,
or like I'll take you to the beach and drop you off, but like no one, I was always kind of jealous of those kids who would like go surf with their dad, or like their dad would take them diving or show them how to like catch a lobster or whatever, and so I'm really looking forward to doing that, like not if they want to, right, not pushing it on them, but being able to like share what I have learned for myself over time.
Yeah, man, I'm a fan of that. It's fun. It is super fun. It's very rewarding to see. There's times when you get frustrated, at least me, when it's like this perfect day, you're like, oh, they're gonna love this, and they don't. You're just like, oh. But then there's days when it does click, and you see just like the raw, like you can see it in their face. They might not tell you, I love being out here, thank you. They're not gonna say that, but you could see it. And that's a special thing. When anybody finds anything that they really love, and especially if you're like your kid in the water, you're just like, it's rad.
You can just hope that happens. I've noticed even just in the past couple of years that sort of thing happens when you least expect it.
Yeah.
So, like you're saying, a perfect day, and it's, it's hitting all your neurons that fire, and making it like what is just so awesome for you. It may not be the same for them, but it could be something so trivial, like just like flopping onto a board, like in the tide pool as you come in from surfing, and they're just like giggling and having fun, and that's awesome. Dude. You can't. There's no substitute for that. Yeah. But I'm also trying to be cognizant of like not giving it all away too early too. Like, and having them be jaded, because I've seen that happen before too. And like I didn't have a little boat growing up, and I didn't like get to fish twice a week, and I didn't have someone to show me like, here's how you do all these things, and I want to make sure that they got to earn it a little bit too.
I agree. Like, and look, my philosophy is my philosophy that's probably tweaked, but there's like this element of you need the gear, because especially where it's cold, you don't get wetsuits every 6 months or new boards every time, but you need the gear to go out there and have fun, but learn it on your own. Like learn how to, you don't walk down the stairs with your leash on your ankle. I'll tell you, but I'm not going to tell you like twice. Right. Or those little things, like there's still this element that people need to learn. Yeah.
And you got to watch them fill and be like, oh, I told you.
Don't sit there. Look, there's a wave coming, huh? I told or whatever. Like there's still like, you got to let people learn their own way in the water, which is sometimes it's hard. But now I'm like, I laugh. I'm like, dude, I told you just got beat. Like,
I think back to like all those times I had as a kid too. Just like sitting in the wrong spot or getting yelled at by some dude, or like
you learn.
Feeling like you're gonna drown. Like it's just all part of the deal, right?
Yeah, man. That's it. Well, Scott, I wish you the best of luck, man. Again, a cool chapter. I'm a huge fan of like big thing, like these lines in your life. You could see like your boat's there, and now you have another kid, and it's just neat to reflect on that. So thanks for spending time and sharing your pretty insanely rad ocean life with us, dude. It's rad to hear it.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Thanks.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for listening to another podcast episode. Can't do it without you. And so thrilled to have you here supporting myself and the podcast and all the guests continually. Always appreciate a positive rating on your podcast app, whether it be Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, you name it. Just helps grow the podcast and spread awareness. So thanks for that. And then any social media mentions, always super appreciative. And if you know somebody who you think would be great to have on the podcast to share about their ocean life, please hit me up. I'd love to chat with them. Or if you think you'd like to, let me know. Email is josh@thisoceanlife.tv. All right. Thanks, guys.